Welcome to the Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens podcast. I'm Brandon Jaffe. Join us as we explore relationship and mental health issues by weeding out the trends in the mental health industry to uncover what truly works in improving our emotional well-being and relationships. At Inspired Resolutions Counseling, we specialize in providing interventions and resources for families with teens, focusing on topics such as teen mental health, parenting challenges, and family dynamics.
This episode is a recording of the Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens group. The voices of the participants have been edited out for confidentiality purposes.
He was bullied, kinder, first, and second grade. And what grade is he in now? 11th grade now. He has a history of being bullied. And does he continue to have social skills issues? Or we've got this situation where it's a really small community. It was fine. There was bullying in early age. There is some bullying going on now. There's still some social support, but there are social skills issues. And when I think about social skills issues and being bullied, I think that as adults, we really like to think of a beginning and an end. And we kind of think of it as this issue that follows the model that like Hallmark and some of the Hollywood movies have given us, right? One of my favorite bullying movies is The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid movies have such a great ending, right? Kid who's actually a good kid and has good social skills gets bullied because he's just a new kid, and then learns some skills, learns to beat people up, learns to take care of himself, and eventually doesn't care about what people think about him, finds a girl, moves on, and becomes a hero. That is never, ever what true bullying looks like. Some people who have good social skills get bullied for a period of time, but it looks different over time, right? So I think, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong, I think what you're telling me we're dealing with now is your child has been bullied. Your child may struggle in terms of social skills abilities and is at a small school. Now that there's somebody else who's not so nice, there's even more struggle. Bullying's not like the movies. A lot of times there's the bullying moments, and there are some people who experience bullying for a significant period of time, like your child did. But a lot of people who have been bullied at certain periods of their life don't experience bullying per se, but struggle socially. And I think what I'm asking you is, let's take bullying off the table. Does your child still struggle with things socially? That's really important because we get so caught up in talking about preventing and worrying about bullying that we forget that there's a whole spectrum of adverse experiences that can make life miserable as well. I have worked with clients who, while they're being bullied, experience significant support. And while they're being obviously bullied, experience significant support. But the times that they become the most depressed is when things are kind of under the radar and they're just kind of being left out, rejected, not treated great, but not treated terribly. I suspect that while this bully may be the trigger for your child voicing, hey, I don't want to go to school anymore, there's probably more to the story. Having a discussion about the entire experience is going to be important. What exactly outside of this situation is going on? And I can't, as a therapist and as somebody who's running this support group, I can't say, hey, you should or you should not take your child out of school. What I can say is, it is time to have a really poignant discussion. It is time as a family to maybe even get some outside help to mediate a healthy discussion about, okay, the school that we're at, are there alternatives? What is the reason that you want to leave? What are the consequences of leaving? What are the benefits of leaving? What is the goal for the future? And so I think as a society, as parents, we say, you can't leave school, but especially when you're in a certain situation with schools, there might be alternatives, because at the end of the day, what is the goal of going to school? The goal of school is education. Now, it's only within the last, 15 years that we've added mental health to school jobs. Socialization was not the job of the school, but a really good side effect to school. And now we live in a time where, depending on your morals, depending on your values, you might say, I don't want my child to be socialized in that way. Or a child might not be being socialized in a healthy way. And so, again, because I'm not living your guys' life and I'm not living your child's life, I can't say, hey, the way that he's being socialized is something you don't want to give up on. Make sure he stays and just toughs it out. 10, 15 years ago in my career, I might have said something like that, but I've seen so many alternatives work out, and I've seen alternative schooling not work out. I've come to realize that just because you're in a school setting doesn't mean you're learning social skills. Sometimes you're in the wrong school setting without the right support, and you're not learning the right social skills. Having said that, that brings me to kind of my point. I think that it is really important that you have a discussion with your child. When your child wants to leave, have a discussion that kind of puts everything on the table. Hey, look, here's the reasons we don't want you to leave. And one of them is we're worried that you're not learning to socialize. And if they're in 11th grade and still not improving their ability to socialize, their social skills set, then it might be time to say, hey, you're not getting it here. We see this problem. We're worried about the future. We don't want to make you feel bad, but let's all really put our cards on the table. There are some social skills issues. Can we start to problem solve that? Can we start to problem solve the fact that we want you to get the best education possible that'll set you up for getting into other institutions that'll get you an education? And so the real issue here is not whether or not you stay in school. It's social skills need to be addressed. Your education needs to be addressed. Can we get some problem solving opportunities and options on the table? I'm going to throw something out there. Your child may be doing well academically, and it sounds like from what you're saying, your child would do well academically pretty much anywhere. Where your child's failing is learning to socialize. And so instead of saying, well, we'll homeschool you, but you have to play a sport, you have to do this, you have to do that, how about a discussion about, look, we are your parents, we love you. We got to be honest, your social skills are not okay. They aren't up to par. The way that you get social skills is by joining groups, joining sports, being a part of things that make you work with other people. We know that's a struggle for you. We would like you to agree to try some things out rather than what you're saying you're doing, which is you can be homeschooled as long as but you have to do this and you have to do that. That attitude, while I get it because you're a parent, you want to say you have to do this, but forcing a child with poor social skills to play a sport, do some other club as kind of like the punishment, so to speak, for allowing them to be homeschooled, it doesn't feel like a cohesive, healthy attitude. I'd rather healthy discussions with our kids and set boundaries where we need to set boundaries, but it doesn't feel like a protective boundary issue. This is you guys want your child to learn to socialize. And so I like the idea of, hey, look, the school that you're at, it's not working out for you. Here's what we're willing to offer. We're willing to pay for certain schools. We're not willing to participate in other schools. And I don't know if you guys need help in figuring that out, But you might want to ask, hey, look, we got to figure this out. We need to decide if this is what healthy options are out there that we can afford. And then have a separate discussion, because that's taking care of the education. Have a separate discussion about, hey, we're not cool with your skills in socialization. Here's all the ideas we have for learning those skills because we want you to be happy in the long run. And your son might have ideas that you don't even think of. And having a family therapy session with somebody might lead to even more options and opportunities. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? What are some ways that we can, in a healthy way, encourage our kids to learn social skills? Role playing at home. Now, I like that one when they're young, to get your 11th grader to role play social skills isn't going to work right now, but I like that. Absolutely. But what are some other opportunities in the world? Do you guys mind if I bring up one that everybody's going to roll their eyes out and hate me for? Online video games. As much damage as online video games has caused in this world, do you know that when honed the right way, it actually has taught some kids who never were going to learn to socialize. In fact, I had a really cool session today where one of my clients who's obsessed with video games and came in, whose parents wanted him to quit video games, actually has been putting some parameters and boundaries on himself for playing video games, but took this really cool step and got this whole group of people, and we're talking some of these people were in other states, together for the holidays to meet in person. Because of the work he was doing with me, he actually has in-person real friends now. But those skills were learned in a combination of playing the video games and then being encouraged through therapy to reach out and kind of have some actual social skills outside of the video games with these people that he met. Okay. What else? What are some other ways that people come together and socialize? Volunteer opportunities. And I was hoping somebody would say that. Thank you. A kid who's homeschooled, but also is encouraged to participate in the philanthropic world of Orange County or LA or the Inland Empire has many opportunities to connect with other people who are in a mindset of being kind to people. Let's say you meet people through sports. What is the attitude of sports? Competition, which is great, but it's not exactly the most sympathetic, open-armed attitude for meeting people who have social skills issues. However, philanthropic work, what is the attitude of philanthropic work? Kindness and empathy, man. Helping others. It's something that I've had this conversation with parents so many times. Look, your child is terrible at social skills. And I'm one of those really blunt therapists. I say that right in front of the child. They don't understand how to navigate the normal teenage world, non-empathetic, competitive, judgmental world. Why do you keep forcing them into that world? Why can't we get them to just volunteer for a whole bunch of stuff? That world, people are ready to be open-minded and open-armed. And then you learn the social skills that might set you up for success in other social skills, parts of life. And so as parents, I believe it's our job to problem solve and not get stuck in one mode of thinking. Look, education is education. Social skills is social skills. Yes, they get combined at a traditional school setting. But if you are worried that your child's not socializing correctly, let's think outside of the box. And if you want to make sure they're getting their education, well, you know what? I'm going to say, let's make sure that they get educated and we have healthy conversations separately about the socialization instead of saying, hey, you have to do it in this way. Now, I say that with a caveat. I say that when all else fails, because I do believe that our kids should stick with things to a certain extent. So for you guys in this situation, I don't know if this is an opportunity for your child to push through, be uncomfortable, learn some life lessons, and then stick with a really good thing that he's got going because he's trying to run away right now. I threw out the opportunities in the message of, hey, come on, let him do whatever, let him get his education and do the socialization separate. But the caveat is, I don't know how hard he's worked or if he has tried to push through the challenge enough in order to build the character that he should be building, because I don't believe you just run away because things become uncomfortable. When I hear the word bullying, though, I kind of have the attitude that if you're being bullied, you address it with the school. If things get worse, you try one more time. If it's not getting any better, you do not want to subject somebody to continued bullying, because to me, true bullying, it's equal to sometimes physical, but always emotional abuse. And so you do what you can to get somebody out of emotional abuse. Now, I'm going to give another kind of caveat. The problem with that is I hear a lot of explanations for bullying where I go, yeah, that's not bullying. That's just being mean. And that's an adverse experience, not a bullying experience. But if you're truly experiencing bullying, bullying is abuse. We want to protect our children from abuse at all costs. We don't want to protect them from adverse experiences in school, which would be like, if you're getting made fun of, that's not bullying necessary. So I want you to stick with your gut, especially because what you just described, it's not what I would call bullying. It's somebody who's being mean to people, antagonizing people. But you see, bullying, I don't want to minimize anything. You can have a really bad experience where there's bullying moments, but you're safe because there are people around you who are going to protect you. The school system's on board. And that's not that bullying experience that I'm talking about where it's time to get away. A lot of families and kids that I work with, they're being bullied. They confront the school. The school either doesn't have the resources, doesn't agree, or isn't willing to take steps to stop it. And then in trying to address it, it becomes more, and there's usually more than one person involved in the bullying, and it is persistent, and it is damaging, and it is abusive. There are some mean people out there. It kind of sounds like the school as a whole is protecting the rest of the students from this kid who is a bully. That is a different situation. But from what I'm hearing you say, it kind of sounds like your gut's telling you, you know what? My child's kind of using this as an excuse to run away. He has protection at school. He has some good things going on. Even though he struggles socially, he's safe. He's getting a good education. And so it kind of sounds like your child's experiencing adverse days rather than is being truly damaged by this school. So your child, your son has this history of, if I don't hit it perfectly, it's doom and gloom. I can't deal with adverse situations. I can't deal with failure. And so everything you're telling me says there's no reason to go through the rigmarole of granting him his wish of homeschooling, because homeschooling is going to take more from you. And again, I'm willing to sacrifice for my child my time, my energy, my finances, as long as it's reasonable, as long as it's not something that I can't or am not willing to give, as long as it's not going to totally ruin the rest of my life. I'm willing to make sacrifices as long as it's also healthy for my child. I will not make sacrifices that I believe are enabling of my child. And that's really important. A lot of parents will make sacrifices because they want their child to be happy, but deep down they believe that they are enabling. And so what I'm reading from your story is, if I allow him to leave this school, I believe I am enabling, even though those aren't your words. When I say that out loud, do you connect with that? So I'm going to tell you, do not ever enable your child. Walk alongside them when they are having adverse experiences in life. Don't feel guilty when they feel down. I know it is so easy to see your child feeling depressed because they have to work through building skills or work through an adverse experience in life, or they lost something. It's so easy to fall into the enabling patterns because you don't want your child to feel bad. But a lot of times that instinct, that reaction turns into enabling, which turns into causing more damage in your child's life than you deciding to lovingly walk alongside them while they experience failure or adversity. Do you know what issue you've brought up inadvertently more that is most concerning to me? The anger. The anger seems to be the real problem going on, and you can't fix his anger, but you can offer resources. The physiological, along with emotional reaction to our children's unbridled anger, consistent anger, is huge. When our children are angry, you don't have much control, but when they're angry in a way that robs you of any and all control, and it's unreasonable anger, it becomes the hopeless trigger for parents. Well, I appreciate you bringing that issue in. You're not alone in that. It's such an interesting conundrum that comes up more often, I think, than ever, right? We have more opportunities for school alternatives than ever before. And the big conundrum is, well, when is it healthy to let them do that? When is it not healthy? To what extent do we go to? How's it going to affect their future? And the school system are still figuring it out. We don't really know academically what to do with all these alternatives. We definitely don't know what to do socially with all these alternatives. Her question is great. How do I send him to school? That's like asking, how do I force my child who's way bigger than me to do something that they refuse to do? I don't have the magic for that. I am not one of these therapists that pretends like therapists and psychologists have magical words to convince people. True psychotherapists don't deal with tricks. We don't deal with hypnotizing people. In some ways, we're kind of like, hopefully, more honest. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, there's no way for you physically to force your child who's giant to go to school. But you don't have to participate in his refusal to go. You can set boundaries. You can not have the conversations that he seems to want to have. So if he chooses not to go to school, but you are not choosing to have the conversation and make it easy for him to go to a different school, the only way to get to a different school is for him to fail out of the school that he's at. Well, if he's worried about getting a B, he's probably not going to want to get an F. My point is, I don't want you forcing him to do anything. I just don't want you participating in saying that you're going to allow him to do anything other than go to this school. Because you've already said, I don't want him and I'm not going to allow him to go to another school. Therefore, the conversation just is, if he threatens to make a poor decision in his life that will lead to failure, what do I do? And my answer is, you can't do anything. You offer a resource. I'm willing to drive you to school. You're refusing to go to school. I can't do anything about that. The school already has the consequences. And you've already given me the information that your child will flip out if he gets an F. Therefore, he's threatening you. And I hate to put it this way, but don't negotiate with a terrorist. When your child behaves like a terrorist, in other words, they threaten to blow everything up, not literally, but figuratively. If you don't give them what they want, don't participate. When your child acts like a terrorist, don't participate. You can't fix it. You love on them unconditionally. You still give them the resources you want to give them. You behave in a way that's cool, calm, and collected, but you don't get in the game with them, so to speak. You don't get in that gorilla's cage. When they make those threats, they're throwing a really long temper tantrum. And what do I say about temper tantrums, you guys? Don't engage. So the analogy is when you see a gorilla at the zoo behind the glass throwing a temper tantrum, you don't go talk it into not throwing a temper tantrum. You definitely don't want to get in the cage with the gorilla who's throwing the temper tantrum. You just kind of watch, stay back, and try not to antagonize. If you're mean, you antagonize. You don't antagonize. And the people who get in the cage with the gorilla get thrown around and killed sometimes. So you just stay back, and there's no engagement that's going to teach a lesson. There's no engagement that is going to make things better for you or your child. Therefore, it's up to your child. Especially by the time your child's a teen, there are some things that just aren't your battle, and all you can do is choose to not participate and to not enable, because they have to figure it out.
The Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens podcast is an Inspired Resolutions production, hosted by Brandon Jaffe, edited and mixed by Natalie Atkinson, music by Natalie and Sean Atkinson. Inspired Resolutions Counseling is based in Yorba Linda, California. Whether you're interested in joining our group, seeking therapy services, or exploring more of our resources, you can find us on our website, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Inspired Resolutions Counseling.